Officer sees girl wandering at night. Then he sees her face. His curiosity was sparked by seeing that little girl walking alone through the streets in the middle of the night all by herself. How was that not reported? Did her parents know anything about it? He then decided to get closer in order to learn more about the issue. As soon as he saw her face, he could not help but gasp. He finally understood. Time was of the essence, and he needed to act. Maximilian Roberts had dedicated the last 15 years to the Chicago Police Department. He felt lucky to have a job that was exciting, but also enabled him to better his community. However, there was another reason why he had always found law enforcement to be an appealing professional option. It was a secret that few people knew about, not even his closest coworker knew. Roberts was not the kind of person that would open up about his life or his past. Only a limited few within the police department were aware of a certain aspect of his life that he wanted to keep private. Unknown to many, Roberts' past played a significant impact in his decision to pursue a career as a law enforcement officer. Maximilian lost his family at a very young age, and he grew up in foster homes. Even when they were alive, they did not spend a lot of time with him. Thus, he did not really recall any memories of them. They both struggled with addiction, and as a result, they could not appropriately care for him. Robert's parents died when he was 3 years old, and he has been in foster care ever since. Was Maximilian's situation going to improve after that? Roberts tried his best to deal with his troubled past. However, the feeling of not being like other children was very present in his life. He had lost his parents, and that was a truth he had to accept. As a result, when Roberts reached 10, he made the choice that would impact the remainder of his life, including his meeting with the little girl. Roberts decided to spend all of his time and energy pursuing a career with the police force. He was determined to do everything he could to eliminate corruption and the hardships that his parents had faced. Getting into law enforcement would be the most effective method to ensure that no other child has to go through what he has, or at least that's what he assumed. Up until that point, Maximilian's evening had been reasonably unremarkable until he discovered that girl strolling the streets alone. He was on patrol with a colleague. The radio was silent for several hours. In their opinion, this was a rather unusual occurrence, and they wondered if the station had any problems. A peaceful night like that was almost unheard of among Chicago Police Department personnel. In other ways, a situation in which nothing appeared to be wrong was nearly a dead giveaway that something was seriously wrong. The two officers were beginning to feel unsettled. Is there a problem with the channels of communication between the stations? And then they noticed it. During the middle of the night, Emily was seen roaming the streets alone in Chicago. She couldn't be more than 3 years old. She was just meandering around at a leisurely pace with no apparent goal in mind. Her parents also didn't appear to be present. What exactly was happening? Maximilian signaled his colleague to pull over to the side of the road. He made the decision to exit the vehicle, contact the girl, and see whether she was in any trouble. His heart was beating as he drew closer to her, praying that the incident wouldn't be too severe. He finally neared her and had an opportunity to get a closer look at her. He felt his heart plummet as he saw her face. The girl's face was blank and expressionless. Instantly, Maximilian recognized what that meant. It was the very image of a child who had seen terrible things and was feeling lost and in despair. Right then, the officer knew he had to do something. He asked the girl where she lived. The girl pointed at a specific flat in that street. Then Maximilian took the girl to the police car, asked his colleague to drive her to the station, and decided to investigate by himself. He had to get to the bottom of the issue. He entered the building the girl had pointed at. The entrance hall was really raggedy and dirty. He could see cans, broken bottles, and even needles spread all over the floor. As he climbed up the stairs, he had a bad feeling. Finally, he arrived at the flat in question. The door was half opened. He braced himself and entered the apartment, not knowing what to expect. He then saw something that brought tears to his eyes. 2 adults were lying on the floor, probably the girl's parents. There were needles around them, and they didn't seem to be breathing. Immediately, Maximilian knew what was going on. The girl was suffering the same that had happened to him so many years ago. Now her life would never be the same again. The police officer couldn't hold his tears as he contemplated the scene. Right then, he promised himself something. He would do everything he could to ensure the girl would have an easier and better upbringing than he did. He returned to the station and notified his colleagues about what he had seen. Quickly, a patrol and an ambulance were sent to the place. Now all there was left was to find out a way to make sure the girl was taken care of. The girl was put for adoption under the close scrutiny of Maximilian. In a matter of weeks, she found a foster family willing to adopt her and raise her like her own child. From then on, Maximilian stayed in touch with the girl and her foster parents, making sure that she had a good and happy childhood.